podcast is a member of WildGamesProductions.com and D20Radio.com. First there was the original.
I thought it might be nice for kids. Keep them off the street, you know.
Then the basic.
This is a simple game.
Then the first version of the advanced.
Good, clean, wholesome fun.
Now the hammer comes down. Welcome to THACO's Hammer, the podcast for 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Welcome back to THACO's Hammer, the 2nd edition podcast. I'm DM Glenn, with, of course, as always, DM Corey.
Evening, everyone.
And we have a new host, a guy from the wilds of Texas, DM Bad Mike. Say hi.
Hey, guys.
And we are going to go through a few things that have to do with 2nd edition, all 2nd edition all the time.
Should we let Mike tell the folks listening about him?
Oh, sure.
Since we did our intro?
So everybody sit down, put your dice down, go get a drink, let me see your character sheet, and Mike will tell us all about his background, gaming-wise.
Well, I started out in 1978 in high school, and we dabbled in Holmes Basic, moved to AD&D, which we stayed with right up until 2nd edition was released. And when 2nd edition was released, we said, wow, this is our game with all the house rules put in. So we switched over. So I'm one of those that played AD&D and liked it, still love it, but switched over to 2nd edition. No problems at all.
So you're saying 2nd edition was all your house rules in there?
Pretty much. It was the way we played, had a lot of the optional rules in 2nd edition were the rules we'd already added. Uh-huh. So we really had very little trouble switching over.
Okay.
And we've been playing 2nd edition to this day, so it's been over 20 years.
Well, that's good. I'm glad we got somebody with a knowledge about like house ruling and options and things like that. We'll be talking about that too, but my idea was to talk about like, here, you can play it with just the core or with all these options. It's the same,
sure.
You know, whatever floats your boat, basically.
That's what the beauty of 2nd edition is the options.
Yeah, and they stress that, which is something I like. And, okay, so, let's go down to hits and crits.
What do you feel like doing tonight? I don't know, Ange. What do you feel like doing? Oh, we ought to do something at Saturday night. I don't want to go bowling like last Saturday. Oh, what do you feel like doing tonight? I don't know, Ange. What do you feel like doing?
Hits and crits. Hits and crits. So, what did you guys do gaming this week? Anything? Even if it's not D&D.
New guy, you get to start.
Well, I was just telling Corey earlier that I have 3 campaigns, and they're all on hiatus. They have been before Christmas, so I have not been doing a lot, but one special occasion happened last week, which was I DM'd my grandson for the first time.
Oh, you lucky guy.
And
awesome.
We had a blast. We were snowed in here in Texas, as you probably saw if you watched the Super Bowl. It was a mess. And so he stayed with us, and so he rolled up his first character and went on his first adventure. And I must add something. Yeah. We did THACO, and he's 6 years old, and he understood it in 2 hours. So all those out there that think math is so hard, I don't understand THACO. A 6-year-old got it in 2 hours. Sorry about that.
That's fantastic.
That's okay. I've got 2 grandsons, 4 and 7, and I'm just waiting to get the 7-year-old started.
He's going to take him through the RC, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what else is in that? THACO.
Yes, it is. I mean, that's why I said THACO is not original to 2nd edition, but this is where it became popular. And, I'm going to start him in the Rules Cyclopedia, because it's a 1-book thing, and pretty much I just want him to get the experience of playing D&D for the first time. So you started him right in 2nd edition?
Well, no, actually, we ran Red Book Basic, but I did use THACO because I think THACO's very easy to use, actually.
Okay,
so we did do Red Book.
You did Metzer Basic then?
Yeah, no, but we did Moldvay.
Oh.
The
DX.
The one with the Otis cover there.
Gotcha.
And we ran through the moat house in the back that's in the back of the book. He had a blast.
Oh, that's cool.
Awesome.
Good time.
Awesome.
He had a fighter that he named Death Killer.
Such a classic D&D name.
Yes. It was better than my first name because I think I named my first character Conan. A height of originality.
Well, my 7-year-old drew up a magic user and said, "What's his name?" He said, "Caster." Okay, well, it describes him. That's fine. This is a kid who will come up with original stuff. Like, I got an old copy of the D6 Star Wars game, and he wanted to play a Jedi, and we drew up a character Jedi. I says, "What's his name?" He said, "Johan." 7-year-old. Johan? Where's Johan? What about you, Big Corey?
This week, I've been toiling on my Word doc, still trying to hammer out the campaign source book for my world and drawing pictures. I helped Thorkhammer complete a module. It's a self-published, available up on lulu.com. He's finished that up. I helped him with the mapping and the illustrations and the filler art, the interior art for the module, and I got to do the cover. I wasn't planning on it. I have my game always happens right after this, so I gotta remember what happened after the last show because that's when my D&D gaming starts. Ran my group through another section of the campaign in my world, and had 2 deaths. It seems that they don't really realize the strength of a specter. And essentially treated them just like simple ghosts. And I told them that's not, I tried to warn them, but,
I've learned there's no such thing as a simple ghost.
Yeah, this is true.
I found out the hard way. It's like, ghost, what's it going to do? Scare me to death? Yeah.
Technically, yes. Yes, exactly.
But, yeah, that's pretty much all I've been doing, drawing and working on the campaign.
Cool. Well, I have not been doing much of anything gaming-wise except looking through my books, look through the adventure we're going to talk about today, and kind of cleaning the house. While doing my show. That's another, in case anybody doesn't know, I do stage acting in my spare time, and I'm in rehearsal for the 3rd show of 3, and so I'm really looking forward to getting out of the show and do some gaming again. So that's why I'm kind of like the guy pulling up the rear. But I do get books, and I buy books, and I read through game books, and
heck, you even use them when you're on stage.
Heck, yes, that's right. I had one guy was playing a 1976 geek, and I covered the monster manual and said, here's one of your school books. I even put on the Napoleon Dynamite did the cover. AD&D monster manual. Remember those how you cover the books in the the paper shopping bags? I did that, and I took my Sharpies and just did those crude pictures that everybody used to do on there.
Very nice.
Nice.
And I got him interested in D&D at the same time. That was the bonus.
That's the best part of it all. Yeah. Hey, I know you're an actor, but here's your prop. Hey, what's this prop? I'm kind of interested in it now. Perfect.
Yeah. And well, actually, I didn't have to do much. He said, my dad used to play D&D. My dad. And like I said in the other podcast, I said, well, my first thought was, why aren't you?
Yep.
And so we talked about, what happened was we talked about the Rule Cyclopedia and all that stuff. And you know how the Rule Cyclopedia is going for like $40, $50 now on eBay because everybody's finding out how awesome it is.
Yeah.
Best book ever published, yeah.
Yeah, during rehearsal at the break, he says, I got it. He says, what? He says, I got the Rule Cyclopedia. He says, well, what, you get a PDF? No, I bought it online in the Amazon Marketplace on my phone. He says, okay, how much you pay? $40.
Oh.
It's like, comparison shop or anything.
Yeah. First one I saw, I got.
I got mine for free, so I'm not going to say anything. But anyway, we're getting off on another thing right now. So let's go see what's in the book.
You ever go to school, stupid?
Yeah, and I come out the same way.
Is that your idea of an idea?
It's in the book. It's in the book. Spell components, huh? Which is page 85 of the Player's Handbook.
Page 85 of the Player's Handbook. Spell components.
Tell us all about it.
This is another option given to the DMs, but it's in here for the player so they know if the DM decides to use it. I know that spell components were important in the previous editions. They've pretty much disappeared in the later editions.
Yeah.
But second edition seems to made the actual spell components for all their spells very, I guess, abundant. It's in every spell that you see, but it's still an optional rule.
Right.
It says that, everybody knows what spell components are. They're the small little things. They're actually broken into 3 different components. You have the verbal, the semantic, and the material. And the verbal is your mouth. The somatic is you moving your hands or making gestures. And the materials, little things that are used or consumed during the spell.
The analogy would be to like a chef.
Correct.
This would be the ingredients.
Correct. And a lot of DMs that I know for second edition do not use spell components at all when they're doing their spells. This tells you that there's different ways you can either use it or not use it. If your DM does use it in the campaign, the wizard or priest must have the components in order to cast the spells.
Mm-hmm. And then,
without your spell components, the wizard or the cleric is helpless.
When I started playing second edition, that was the first time I actually started listing spell components on my sheet as equipment. Because I read it and go, okay, now we gotta, let's see, 5 charges of fireball, I have 5 little packets of whatever the hell
bat guano.
Yeah, bat guano and stuff like this. And, and then this player started really worrying about those combats.
Yeah.
Oh, we killed the wyvern, but damn, one of my bat guanos got spilled or something like that. There's one less fireball I can throw, So
I read here, it says, for simplicity of play, it's best to assume that any spellcaster with any sense has a supply of the common items he's likely to need. Wax, feathers, paint, sand, sticks, and fluff.
Uh-huh.
For expensive and rare items, it's perfectly proper for your DM to insist that special efforts be made to obtain the more expensive items. After all, you simply cannot assume that your character has a valuable pearl handy whenever he needs it.
I think that's how Corey and I both rule, because I do a lot of hand waving on spell components that are common, whatever, your spider, your piece of sand, your stick. But when it comes to items worth over 100 gold pieces, I usually say you probably need to have that handy.
Yeah, agreed. A lot of way I do it is a lot of when the players get into town, the wizards and the clerics, the first thing they do is they head to their respective locations, and they're like, the wizard will go over to the curiosity shop and go, I'm going to buy a contingent of spell components that I need, and I just charge him maybe a gold piece or whatever for his common items, the wood, the wax, etc. If he's specifically going to the gems for the pearl so he can cast Identify later, that I will make him say. A lot of the smaller items that I do a lot of hand waving also, because I find if you get too focused on this, it can get to the point where it drags the game almost to a halt.
Yeah.
Because then you have the wizard stopping your gameplay to say, okay, the wax is in the right belt pouch while my little pieces of wood are over on the left. That's the kind of stuff that I don't think is necessary.
It's Dungeons and Dragons, not Dungeons and Bookkeeping.
Correct.
But then there are times when that comes in handy, like in the middle of a battle.
Yeah, it is.
You don't have to know exactly where everything is, but I would do like a intelligence roll saying, okay, the stuff's in my left pouch. Boom.
Right.
Or if you don't remember where it is, okay, you spend a turn looking through your backpack for this.
I essentially describe to my players, the wizards especially, and the clerics to a point, that they essentially have what looks like in the terrible 80s everybody used to wear the fanny packs.
Yeah.
And it's compartmentalized with small pieces of leather so that they can store all of their spell components in one pouch.
Right.
And that way they can tell me, okay, it's in the pouch. Can you reach the pouch? Good. Fine. Easy and done.
I had a player who wanted to make basically a D&D version of Batman's utility belt. I just found this belt. It's like, okay, you have the sulfur in there. I got the thing. It says, where are you putting your batarangs? What? Oh, shut up. Yeah, components are. Here's a question I have for you guys. What have you ever denied players components just because you don't want them to use that spell?
I wouldn't say I denied them. Go ahead, Mike.
one thing that I do as a DM, you have to be very consistent. If you're going to hand wave a lot of stuff, you have to be prepared for that kind of thing. If you're going to be a stickler, then I would say yes, that's something that can come up, is that you're going to run out of your components, especially rare components.
Right.
When you're in a combat, a lot of times my players will say, I'm picking, like you said, you killed a wyvern, I'm picking up his teeth and his scales. Or whatever.
Scavenging the dead for spell components is a big
so I kind of put a little check there when they do that. That's thinking about your character. That's role playing. But it depends on what kind of DM you are. If you're the kind of DM that wants to hand wave, I don't think that's necessary really, unless you just want to really screw your players over at one point.
I don't think for me that I deny spells or spell components because I don't want the spells. But for example, my one group is currently up in the high mountainous region, and they're dealing with dwarves, and they're like thousands of miles from the ocean. Yeah, finding a pearl for Identify Spell is going to be a little rare. You're not going to be able to go to every town and go, hey, I'd like 1,000 or 100 gold piece pearl, please. Sure. It's going to be harder. I wouldn't say that I deny them, but if they're in a certain location and the spell component is rare, and I'd rather have the character role-play more with his sword to find out what magic abilities it has rather than handing it to the wizard and go take a day off and find out what my sword does. But yeah, I'll make it a little harder to find, but I don't think I deny them any.
Okay. That sounds cool. And, you never know what you're going to fight as far as, like, taking parts.
Right. Correct.
Owlbear. Well, I'll take the beak, I'll take the claws, I'll take the, that kind of thing.
Another thing that the spell components that I find are kind of important for is captivity. If you're captured by the enemy, say you're captured by a clan of bugbears, and you're in a prison, well, for a telekinesis spell, you need these spell components. Well, if your hands are tied behind your back and your feet are tied and you can't do anything, I don't think you're going to be able to reach those keys and bring them over to you.
No, not at all. I mean, you could argue that falls under cantrips, but still, you got to have to move your arms.
Right.
I'd say one place I think the game falls down a bit is in not having more spells with only verbal or somatic components.
Agreed.
Because I think that's one thing they tell you is that, hey, if you have a spell with verbal components, you can be tied up and cast it. Well, there's 2, 3? I mean, there's not very many. I think some of the.
I think that's one of the things they fixed in third.
Right.
Because I saw a lot more just verbal and semantic.
Yeah, what I've house ruled in my game is if you are a specialist wizard or a specialist priest, and you have the priests always have their holy symbol, and almost every clerical spell, their material components is either just their holy symbol or their holy symbol and something else. If you specialize in a school or specialize as a priest, we essentially throw the components out the window. Essentially just making it verbal and or semantic.
Well, you see, I also have a problem with, material components for priests, other than, maybe their holy symbol or some holy water.
Right.
Because I don't see, even especially priests, I don't see them using components other than what they have on hand. Like I say, their holy symbol, their weapon, some holy water, maybe some ashes. That's about it.
From what I've noticed from the clerical spells versus the wizard spells, I think the priest spell components, more like the shillelagh. Well, you actually have to have the item in order to make it.
Well, yeah.
You have to have the branch, and that's actually part of the spell components, the object you're using, or Goodberry, or what is the other one, the stone.
Well, I can I can understand that, but I mean, if they want to, I can't think of it. What's a good priest spell that, say protection from something or other? They shouldn't have to have this the blood of a Shamira, or let's talk about Shamira's blood.
Well, here, detect poison. It's a first level priest spell. The material component is a strip of specially blessed vellum, which turns black if poison is present.
Okay, I can kind of understand that since it's blessed.
And the one right above it, detect magic, all you need is the holy symbol of the priest.
Yeah. See, that's the way priests work with me. I mean, they don't need much. That's one of the, that's one of the downsides of being a wizard. You need all this stuff. Spells, plus a spell book.
I think the ratio of is between priests and wizards pretty good. The priests, a lot of their spells only use the holy symbol and or holy water. I think that ratio is pretty good because I think you're right. I think the mage should have to scrounge a little more for their material components.
Yeah, a lot of the actual priest spells that require other spell material components other than the holy symbol are actually in the animal or plant sphere. So to me, they're more geared towards a druid.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I just start questioning that because it's like, if they need all this stuff, what's the point of worshiping a god? If he's not going to give you the spells
he should give it to you, yeah.
When you pray to him. That also makes it more important for them to stay in their god's favor.
True.
If they're, okay, we can cast this other thing with nothing, but I better be in good stead with the god of thunder or something, otherwise nothing's going to happen.
The almighty piety point system.
Yeah, well,
now that leaves this dilemma though. What if your priest falls down a cliff and he comes up not holding his holy symbol or his holy water and he's got to cast a spell? How would you rule as a DM? Would you say you better start digging for your holy symbol, or
you start running?
That's in my gaming table. The answer to that question would be that's what the chainmail and mace is for.
Yes.
Time to get hands on.
That's why they're called fighting priests.
Correct.
I said fighting mages. I'd make a first-level mage, and he'd forget he's a mage when he was first level because he knew that he has one spell. And so all of a sudden he thinks he's a fighter. He's going over there taking his quarterstaff and bashing heads and everything. And it's like, you have armor class 10. I know! Bang, bang. Oh, man. So let's spell components. Why don't you tell us about it? You can give us a shout-out over at thacoshammer@gmail.com. Or the Dragonsfoot forums would be good. We've got our own forums now.
Or the new voicemail.
Yes, we have voicemail now. What's the number, Corey?
The number for THACO's Hammer voicemail is 405-806-0555.
Leave us a message. Ask a question. We will play it on the air.
Use your sexiest voice.
Yes.
If you're a woman.
Unlike Mike. I don't think he has a sex.
No, not really.
Okay, let's go into people skills.
The face is familiar.
It's mine.
And so it is.
Oh, yes, of course. It stands out a mile, doesn't it? He's so common.
The little lady comes in here and starts throwing her butt around. What is that supposed to do?
All right, forget I said anything.
Maybe I will.
Well, that's pretty good.
Don't tell me you weren't looking at it.
Well, that's not half bad.
She's giving it right back to you.
People skills.
People skills, all about elves. You love them or you hate them. How about
I have mixed emotions.
I'm kind of I have a statement I use in my campaigns. It's called "Make the campaign your own." And one problem I have with elves is that if you look at the whole history of D&D from base OD&D to basic to AD&D to 2.0, is that they're very, very wedded to the concept of the Tolkien elf.
Yeah.
And I personally don't like the Tolkien elf.
You don't?
And so I've geared my campaigns for that. That's my what goes along with my rule: make the campaign your own, make the elf your own. Well, there's not a lot of examples out there of non-Tolkien elves in D&D.
So you can use Santa's elves. It's an alternative. What would you do, Mike?
My elves. It depends on my world. I kind of like the. I don't play Dark Sun. I never did, but I kind of like the Dark Sun concept. Is that they've taken the elf and they've made it different, and that's what I did. My elves are very warlike. They don't like singing, dancing, and all that goo stuff. They're very much focused on a war with barbarians that's been going on for centuries, and so they're very warlike. They make really incredible weapons. They love sailing because they have warships. So what I've done is just try to take the Tolkien out of the elf. They don't live forever and ever. They live for probably about 200 years. Most of them die in combat. That's the way they like to go. And I've just tried to kind of stand the concept on its head because I don't like the adherence to the Tolkien ideal of the elf.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. What about you, Corey? Do you use elves as is, or do you do anything to them?
Well, my elves are pretty much generic. The problem is when I got into D&D and started realizing what a great game here we all love, Ed Greenwood had me entranced. And I followed the Forgotten Realms. I believe Forgotten Realms is the most splintered sub-race of elves in any of the D&D campaigns that I've found so far. I think there's something like 8 versions of elves in his world, and they are very Tolkien-esque. And I grew up learning the game with that kind of elf. I haven't changed the elf as far as physically, but what I've done is changed how they interact in my world. And a lot of people who come to the D&D table not knowing my world and say, I'm going to play an elf, need to sit down and realize that my game isn't the basic average D&D game. My elves particularly have undergone a bit of hatred throughout the ages.
A bit?
And, a bit. They are disliked. They are not welcomed in many towns. Cities are different. Cities have a bit more neutrality, but they're looked down upon. And they're hated due to their forefathers creating a great offense in one of the previous ages that had to deal with defeating dragons, and they, instead of siding with the humans and the dwarves and the halflings, said, we owe them a favor, so yeah, we're not going to help you kill the dragons off, so we're just going to walk away from the battle. And ever since that offense, the rest of humanity, as it were, dwarves, humans, and halflings, do not like elves because of what their forefathers did. So a lot of the elves in my world don't walk around with their bright golden hair shining in the sunlight as they walk through the average town because they'll get things thrown at them.
I like that.
You slink around the darkness.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because usually that's the kind of behavior that the other races reserve for humans.
Yeah, exactly.
The human ages their ancestors, insulted their grandmother a long time ago, or did some, to me it was always some piddling reason why they need to hate the humans.
Mm-hmm. And always in the culture of elves, whenever I read anything fantasy gaming based, is elves are always, standoffish, and they act haughty, and they act superior to the other races, and they have this air about them that naturally people who play other races are like, we don't like elves. Well, I took that idea and I put it in my world because I didn't want everybody thinking infravision, better hearing, resistance to sleep and charm. This is the perfect, power race to play when I wanted special abilities. I wanted it to come with a price.
You've got to take something away.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And that's why they may look and they may act like Tolkien's, but in my world, it's not the same. Oh, wow, look, it's an elf. It's more like, get the hell out of my tavern.
Yeah.
One of the things I tried to move away from was the very traditional dwarf versus elf rivalry that just every fantasy trope just has for self. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to have that. So when you play an elf in my world, just know that you don't automatically hate dwarves. As a matter of fact, dwarves feel sorry for elves in my world because dwarves are actually a growing race, whereas elves are a dying race, and they actually kind of feel bad for them. And so there's not a lot of hatred there. It's
pity.
Basically pity. And so they don't necessarily don't get along at first sight like a lot of the fantasy novels and pretty much everything you read about elves and dwarves is, they've got to fight each other, they got to hate each other. And I just wanted to get away from that too.
Yeah, I wanted my world to have something different, and I think a lot of people, once they mature in their gaming, they realize I'm allowed to break away from this stereotypical everyone loves each other, formula. I can do something. And I think it adds to the campaigns, too, so other people who go, humdrum, another fantasy game, the elves and the dwarves, and wait a minute, hold on. What? My race is dying. Wait, hold on, what? It adds something to them to explore, too, as a player.
What drives me crazy about elves in literature, or even in gaming, it's like, I read Tolkien, the elves are leaving Middle-earth. You go off some island land or whatever. Then you come over to the Forgotten Realms. The elves are leaving. It's like, if you don't like this place, goodbye, get the hell out of here.
I agree, Glenn. It sounds a lot of the.
You sit here for millennia, and all of a sudden humans are on the rise. Oh, we can't stand being in the same place with humans. We're going to leave. Good, bye.
Get out of here. We'll take your
kind of like my country. You don't like it, leave. I just don't understand them. It's like we're just sitting around to tell you how much we don't like this.
Yeah,
that's what I got from elves.
Yeah, a lot of the reason why I did mine is because a lot of people were saying they're leaving. The numbers are diminishing. They're disappearing and making them sound more rare and mysterious that they, to spice up the average elf.
Yeah.
And the reason I did my way with the Great Offense is because now in my culture, the elven kingdoms who have for hundreds of years sat in their little communist China walled cities and said, no humans, no nobody, we're just going to live here on our own. They're now sending people out to apologize and try to get back into the culture because they are falling behind. They're not dying off, but now you're seeing an influx of elves in my world because now they're like, okay, we get it. We have to apologize.
Usually insular races are left to be like NPCs and stuff. But when you get like to elves, all of a sudden you're playing a race that just looks down their nose at everybody because they were there first.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Glenn.
No, that's all right. I'm just kind of pontificating right now and running out of steam. But
just pontificate. Keep going.
The Pope says that no. No.
One of the things that people don't remember about elves is that traditionally in literature, elves are a very fey, dark race. Yeah. They're not friendly folk anyway. And so I think it does help to add a little mystery to the elf race, like Corey did, and kind of a little standoffishness, because they shouldn't be, hey, I'm just going to roll up another elf character. Okay, elf 5 walks to the door, and he says hi to everybody, joins up. There should be a little backstory there, and there should be a little...
something.
Added nuance to the elves.
Yeah. Let's end the segment and go into the next one, option package, because this is related.
My personality undergoes a startling change.
You should meet me because I'm a great guy.
I like big fat men like you. When they fall, they make more noise. And sometimes they never get up.
Option package.
Option package. We just happen to have the complete book of elves. How's that for synchronicity?
That's excellent, Glenn.
Excellent? You like that.
That's 2E at its finest.
Well, sort of. Okay. The complete book of elves. Corey, you have the book. Tell us about it.
It's the second edition Player's Handbook supplement for elves, and it actually crosses all of the different gaming systems within second edition, the worlds. Really? Dragonlance, Forgotten Realms, Greyhawk, Ravenloft, Spelljammer, Al-Qadim, and yes, even Dark Sun.
Wow.
It explains the different fractioning of the sub-races and what each of them do and what they're for, but it also goes back and takes it as a wider brushstroke and explains elves in general.
Mm-hmm. So, how many kits are there in there? $60 question.
Yeah, there is a abundance of kits for the different, I guess, class types that an elf can take. There's 1 priest kit, 3 warrior kits, 2 mage thief kits, 2 fighter mage kits, 1 fighter thief kit, and 2 fighter mage thief kits. It has a section on the elven equipment, from Feywine and honey leather down to thistledown and the types of different elf arrows they use. There's actually a section on the magic of elves, and even magic items, the elven magic items and weapons that they use. There's also a section here which I'm not too keen on myself, which kind of disappeared out of the books that I give my players, but there's a section here that I found strange about artificial limbs.
That was out of nowhere. I had not read this book in a long time, and I read that, and I was like, wait a second, am I reading Gamma World, or is this Book of Elves? Or that was very odd.
Yeah, it's a little bit too technology for me.
This is what happens when you hand it to Arneson.
It's very weird, and I know that the Drow Handbook, which we'll talk about on a later episode, has actual picture of an elf standing there with an arm, and it almost reminds me of the replacement limbs for Luke when he gets his hand cut off.
Oh yeah.
And it's very mechanical, and it's almost like they subcontracted a dwarf to come in with a gnome subcontractor to build the arm for him. It's a little weird for elves to be so natural and have that, but besides that, the book actually has a lot of good information and a lot of different explanations of the different elves and what world they're in, and how each world slightly differs with their elves, because not all of them are the same.
Right, so it does touch on Drow too.
No, it does a little. It has a small, as a type of elf that are in the book, it's maybe half a page. I think that's because they were also building the complete book of Drow, but
I think this is the only sub-race that actually got its own book.
No, this is true.
The Drow.
Can I cough and say the name and the reason why? Drizzt?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But they do a good job of keeping because there is a whole another book on Drow. They do keep it down to a minimum here, which I thought was really good. I didn't want to read more about the Drow.
Right.
And so they did keep, as Corey said, kept it short and sweet.
That's a good portion of why people don't like elves in the game, because they had too many people who would take like the Book of Drow or the Drow the Underdark or something like that and make these just game-breaking pieces.
We've all had that player, yes.
Oh, they're like Drizzt Superman.
Yeah, I had that early in my campaigns until they started realizing that in my world, elves are not liked because of the offense, but you know what? They like the Drow even less. So, yeah, you get these great powers, but you will get crucified.
And then you get these players who I don't care. I'd rather burn down the place anyway. You know, that kind of crap.
That's when the large human or half-orc barbarian just, thumps him over the head, they tie him up, and they keep going.
Oh, nice. But yeah, I think anyway, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I had a player that joined our game that had a Drow, and he was not happy with the fact that people hate and dislike Drow, and I guess he didn't understand the whole concept of they're a dark race. People don't like them. They're not going to like you. You're not going to be friends. You're going to walk in a bar and people are going to probably attack you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He turned out he didn't want to play that character then. He thought he would get all the advantages but none of the disadvantages.
I actually typed in elf in the wiki online.
Yeah.
There are quite a few different, I guess you call them tropes, that I did not know about for elves that are outside of the role-playing game.
Really?
And also the entry on Wikipedia actually has all of the sub-races for each of the games and the comparison of what they are to other D&D realms.
Right.
It's pretty interesting seeing all of the different names. Like, the Forgotten Realms takes it to the colors. For example, the gray elves are called gold elves.
Right.
They're sunrise elves. And the aquatic elves are, blue elves. And the moon elves or the silver elves are the high elves. So
right.
It's different the way that they've each subclassed each of the elves. But
right.
Yeah, I try to stay away from naming each different type of elf. Obviously, there's high elves, wood elves, and gray elves. But I just
Corey, what did you think when you were reading it? And I hadn't read it in a while, and I had forgotten about the Blade Singer class.
The Blade Singer. That is the fallback class for those very same people who go, I want to Drow, and I say, okay, well, this is how you're gonna have to play it, and they're like, that sucks. I want to play Blade Singer.
Thank you.
That has essentially become the fallback, the fallback kit for the disgruntled Drow players I found.
This is the argument I have against players playing things out of the monster manual.
It's true. The one class that I did find interesting, and I say it's interesting because I've already actually played one of these up to level 12, is the Spell Filter class.
That was very unique, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Glenn. It's a Mage Thief specialty kit. Mm-hmm. And what they are is they've actually been sent out from the Elven community, and their main job is to take that Elven magic out of those dumb human hands. Oh. If there's an Elven staff that was made by an elf, created by an elf, enchanted by an elf, and it's in some stupid wizard's hand, their job is to take that back for the Elven community. Mm-hmm. They fit perfectly in a dungeon delving group or in a, good heroic group, because their main goal fits with their class, and it really doesn't harm the party as much. I mean, obviously, you have a fighter in the party and you come up with a magical sword and it's Elven. Yeah. You have to convince that thief, listen, I need this to keep us alive. And he'll be like, fine, you can use it. When we part ways, I am taking that sword from you. Yeah. It's a really, really very, very well put together class, in my opinion, the Spell Filter.
Sounds fun.
I kind of like the Collector. I had not remembered that class. It covers the Spell Filter in a bit, in that they're there to take back magic. But I could see the logic of that class. Basically, they're there to find old Elven stuff from ancient, dangerous places, either Elven armor or weapons, and they're there to get it back. I could see a lot of situations where that would fit in pretty good with the party, especially if you're going to investigate like a kind of a Mithranor type of area where there's a lot of ancient ruins. I thought they would fit in pretty good. And their advantages aren't too over the top, and their disadvantages are okay. It's not a game breaker class by any means.
Yeah, it's a good one. Plus, the Undead Slayer is always good as well. That's a kit for any class. I forgot to add that one in. It's any class kit. You just add it onto it, and your focus is keeping the dead.
Yes, I remember. You told me about that. That's really cool. Now, you out there, tell us your elf stories and how you handle elves and elf kits and the complete book of elves for that.
Or even what you think of the elf book.
Yeah, THACOShammer@gmail.com or 405-806-0555. Let's talk about Rule 0.
Rule 0.
One would think you've been doing this all your life.
We'll remember you said that.
I know. I'm sure you hate me just enough.
Rule 0.
Here at Rule 0, I picked this one out. We had something else there. I picked this out especially because of, it's what we're calling is DM's Plan B, or a backup plan. Basically, this was an experience I had in 2nd edition. We were playing the Night Below campaign. And our DM said, well, this is a new guy I met. And he says, well, I used to DM a while ago, but I haven't done it for like 12 years. And I said, well, okay, whatever. So we got a group together. And we went down there we were fine until we hit the temple of the molds, fungus, and jelly temple, where the god of such. And we botched it. We botched it bad. I mean, we activated the temple. We were trying to desecrate. We ended up activating it. And basically, that's when we learned how to run away. So we went up out of the dungeon. It took us a week to get back. We went back to regroup our efforts. And he says, we go out of the dungeon. Well, there's more jellies and slimes. I mean, this thing's just making them. And the dungeon's getting fuller and fuller and fuller. And finally the DM comes to me and says, I think we're going to have to end the campaign. I said, why? He says, you guys aren't at a high enough level to do anything about this. And I don't know what to do.
It's not good when the DM says that.
Fell. And it's like, you're kidding. You're the frickin' DM. What would Gary Gygax do?
WWGGD. There's your new shirt.
Exactly. It's like, I've never heard, in my life, since I started gaming in the mid-'80s, I never heard a DM say that. I don't know what to do.
Agreed. That doesn't instill a lot of confidence in your players. That
had that happen. I mean, how much it was? And I said, we got to talk about this because is this common? Am I just had a mutant group or something? I don't know.
Sounds like he was pretty fixated on one storyline, and this is the way it's going to go. And when you throw him a curveball, that was it. He was out.
What happened if you started treating it like a sandbox?
Yeah.
We spent a few adventures up top just gaining levels and stuff. It's like, why don't we just go back in the wilderness and see what we find?
You need to have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, and a plan E, and it's not that hard to do.
And if you don't, you learn to make it up on the spot.
Right.
Yeah, to me, a DM has to have one thing above and beyond those books needed to play this game, and that's an imagination.
Exactly.
And if a DM is nothing more than reciting to you what's in that module, you're never going to actually, in my opinion, you're not going to enjoy anything in the game after a little while because all he's doing is robotically reading what's in front of him.
Yeah, just use a choose your adventure book. You're the same concept.
Exactly.
Remember, if you're a DM's winging it is nothing more than a successful series of ass pulls by the DM. Just keep the game going, keep them entertained, keep yourself entertained.
Correct.
Yeah.
I had my recent campaign, I had a case for this happen. I had an artifact that was coveted by the frost giants in my world. Uh-huh. And the players had been leading up to the adventure where they finally found the artifact. And the plan A was kind of that the giants would eventually get it from them, and then these giants were going to have a reign of terror across the north. Well, my players outthought me. They sacrificed one player. They said, look, he's going to take this weapon, he's going to teleport away, and no matter what happens to us, they're never going to get this weapon.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't thought of, which was a great idea. And so he teleported away with the artifact. The other players there, well, they actually fought their way out of a tough situation. So rather than just scrap the whole campaign, say, well, I had planned the frost giants to have that weapon and to ravage the north and this and that, yada yada. And you just went to plan B, which was, okay, now you've got away with the weapon. Now the frost giants are after you. They're not going to ravage the north anymore. They want you. They're pissed.
Yeah,
absolutely. And they're going to track y'all down. So I just segued into that.
And that's winging it with logic.
Sure.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, logical. Okay, you did it. We're going to come after you now. So yeah, you got to have a plan B, or else be able to make it up on at least enough of an adventure to finish the night out, so you can regroup.
Agreed.
For next time. Okay, they did this. Well, let's do this then. And maybe they're not going to follow that. Maybe you got to do some more ass pulls, but at least you have a direction you're going now. You know the new direction.
Yeah, one of my players has decided to start running a module. He's actually doing the Hamlet. And we struggled through Hamlet. It was his very first time DMing. He actually gave me a chance to play. I haven't played D&D actually in about 5-6 years, but he actually let me play. And then we moved on to another module, and it had a map in it, which we were using. And he said, okay, so you're at a bridge. Would you like to go across the bridge to the north and continue on to the town? I said, why don't we go west and head along the river? And his jaw dropped. And I was only joking with him, but it was funny to see when he was like, that's not the way you're supposed to go. I essentially just said, I'm just kidding. I just need you to be aware that this is what you all do to me from time to time. And he's like, that's not nice. And I said, okay, as long as you remember that next time I am DMing and you all walk me through. It's not easy to turn around and say, okay, great, now I totally have to populate this wilderness area and say, what's over that hill ridge?
But it is the DM's responsibility to know what's over that hill ridge.
Absolutely.
And that's why you always keep when I game, I keep a little folder near me. It's got a lot of mini adventures, kind of like the old Book of Lairs.
Oh yes.
And these are if things get all go a little pear-shaped. They head off in the wrong direction. They decide they're not going to take the hook. And so you just go with it. You say, okay, well, here's this adventure over here. This would fit in perfectly. And I've had to do that more than once because my players are often they're not sheep. I mean, they'll run off and do their own thing, and you just got to be able to do that as DM.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I actually have a counter to this plan B. I actually made a mistake and did plans B through double Z. And when I completed my campaign world, I started this at probably about 7 years ago. And for the last 4 years, I was living in Hawaii. When I came back here to my group, they were all ready to go, and they didn't realize that I've completed my world. I dropped them in it, and they kind of went, we don't know where to go. Oh, but I had everywhere listed where they could go. If they went northwest, if they went west, if they went southeast, wherever they went, it was ready to go. All I needed them was to pick a location, and they were like, well, I still don't know where to go. So I think that with a plan B, it is necessary, but you need also to make sure that you give the players a little nudge when they're sitting at the crossroads going, which way do we go?
Yeah.
About the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I would do is get 2 or 3 things lined up. And, I'll just, if they hit a crossroads, I say, okay, you want to go over here? Even if you have to drop hints or rumors or so, okay, I hear this over in the west, this princess has been kidnapped. Over here, we got some, orcs invading a forest. Over here, what do you want to do? Or do you want?
Every DM should have a cheat sheet. Yeah, that's your cheat sheet, your DM cheat sheet. Mm-hmm. Every DM should have that.
And I do the Vince method of they go off in some direction I hadn't planned. Well, I just turn it around so they're heading towards one of the other.
They're still heading in the right direction. They just don't know it.
That's right. That's right. And there's nothing wrong about doing that. Not at all. Oh. Okay. Well, I'd really like to hear about this from people out there. THACOshammer@gmail.com or the Dragon's Foot forums in 2nd edition or 405-806-0555. What do we got next? Oh, we're going to get some magic fingers.
Eeny, meeny, chili beanie, the spirits are about to speak.
Well, it just so happens that your friend here is only mostly dead.
Sounds like a lot of supernatural baloney to me.
Supernatural, perhaps. Baloney, perhaps not.
Magic fingers.
I don't know, magic fingers. Is that like lady fingers?
A little.
Only
like a massage here.
Only if she's a wizard. Ha ha!
We got a couple of spells. We got a wizard spell and a priest spell. The first one is a wizard spell called Blast Bones. And what level is that, Corey?
Oh, you're going to throw me on the spot. I don't even have the book.
Second. It's second.
There you go.
Second level. And what it do is exactly like it says on the tin. It explodes bones. And what it is basically is a wizard can throw this spell. If there's a pile of bones or a bone sticking out or something like that, he can make it explode.
Effective against skeletons.
Exactly. And I could think of a myriad of things that you can use it for. My favorite is, what was it? Taking a corpse you're going to put into a zombie, sewing like some bones and nails inside, making sure there's.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Making sure there's a bone sticking out and then activating it and throwing it. It's like a kamikaze zombie. Blast bones, kaboom!
They might not get hit by the bone shrapnel, but they'll make sure that the nails and whatnot inside definitely will.
That's sure, stuff it full of iron spikes or sling bullets, and that's nasty.
Because you get a saving throw for half damage versus the bones. But you think about the other stuff.
Would be quite a inventive spell to use in a magic user and cleric duo. If the cleric spends his free slots, making the magic stones, the +1 stones, and just filling the innards of the zombie with that.
Oh.
And sending the wizard.
Ouchie.
You see what I'm saying? No need for a sling when you have a delivery system of his exploding zombie.
2nd edition, I played a chaotic good necromancer. How you say? I just did. He was a traveling mortician.
Nice.
He would collect bones and things like that, and he would take little packets of bones and wrap them up in leather or cloth. And I always had one bone stick out, and somebody asked him, "What's that for?" I said, "A fuse." He'd throw them in the middle of like goblins and cast on it. Instant grenade. It's great.
Instant explosion.
Yes.
This is a good spell for necromancer baddies. to use against player characters. But as you pointed out, it's also not a bad spell for a player character necromancer types to use also.
It can be.
So, question, would you think, or how would you allow it if a player who had this spell was fighting a flesh golem? Well, not really a flesh golem. We'll say, like a giant.
A bone golem?
No, a giant. And, the fighter and the barbarian have been busy hacking on the leg, and,
okay.
The player asks, is the bone exposed?
It's only a second level spell. I would be real careful with it. It's only second level. I would probably restrict it to unliving tissue.
Unliving bones?
Yeah.
Okay. Think of this. Depends on the giant, of course, but say we're dealing with, what's the real dumbass giants? Not Ettins, but...
the Verbi? No, the Verbi, not the...
Formian? No, Formians?
The ones that are kind of like they're dressed like caveman and all that.
Oh, that's a hill giant.
Hill giant. A lot of times they use bone weapons like a club, like a great big old femur or something. Hell, make that explode.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, the wild orc shaman who has the bone in his nose.
Oh!
I'll see. Oh, yeah.
Both
great.
Ears.
Please, DM, please explain to me what the Knoll shaman is wearing. Does he have any bones on him? Oh, yeah, he has a whole necklace.
Excellent. He's got a cod piece. Yeah, bone cod piece.
And don't lizard men have shamans too? There's a lot. All the witch doctors are going to be exploding, yeah.
Now, what's the range on that spell?
That I don't know.
Range is 40 yards, so it's got a pretty good distance on it.
It does.
40 yards, 120, was it 40? Yeah, 120 feet, correct? Is that right? Yeah.
Now, are there...
So...
Yeah, go ahead.
What about, and this is just how I think because I'm thinking the way that I need to stop my players because this is how my players think. What about a elven archer who ties bones to an arrow and has a cleric or a wizard with him?
Well, there's actually a line here that I didn't read the first time. It can be cast as take effect immediately or triggered.
Yeah.
That sounds like dynamite arrows from the A-Team to me.
That's the sweet spot of the spell right there.
Triggered.
And be triggered. That's why. So you can take those zombies and pick them up and okay, the first hit, kaboom.
That's so terrible. Very versatile spell. For a second level, that's a pretty effective spell. Even just as a wizard with that spell, you could add to the archer, you could add to the cleric, you could add just to yourself with a zombie. It's a very versatile spell.
And are there any other than the bones, of course, are there any material components? I don't think there are, except for the bones.
Yeah, I don't.
It's just ash and the bones, so it's not that hard to.
You're home free. You can find ash anywhere.
You wake up in the morning and the campfire's out, and there's some ash right there. You're good to go for the day.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice spell.
Yeah, very nice. So what else we got? Crushing walls. I'm not familiar with this clerical spell.
This is a clerical spell from the Tome of Magic.
Okay.
It is a 6th-level clerical spell. Mm-hmm. What this does is it enables a caster to enchant a floor, ceiling, or single wall of a room to crush intruders.
Ooh.
It gives you the size of, say, a 13th level priest could affect a 26-foot by 26-foot surface. So it's times 2 feet.
Now, I'm assuming this isn't the classic, like Indiana Jones slowly.
As a matter
it is the classic.
It is the classic.
I thought it was
exactly
It moves at 3 feet per round. If I read that right. Yes, when activated, the enchanted surface moves towards the opposite surface at a rate of 3 feet per round.
Okay.
Unless the spell is canceled by the caster, the enchanted surface continues to move until one of the following events occur. And they list a bunch of events. The spell magic is similar spell effect is used to negate the crushing wall. A strong or heavy object made of wood, stone, or metal is placed in the path of the wall. It just says heavy. It does not say the weight needed.
This is the perfect spell to replicate the old-fashioned, the walls are going to crush you in and the ceiling comes down on you. This is actually a spell that replicates that.
The pulp action.
3PO turn off all the compactors on the detention level?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what I thought of when I read the spell.
The reason I suggested this spell is I could see different uses for this spell.
Uh-huh.
your cleric falls into a pit, 10-foot pit, casting this on the floor.
Rise up.
Okay.
You would rise up and out of the pit. If you could not reach, say, a ledge, you could cast it on a section of the floor. It will rise up. Right. The room is filling with acid. You could use it to bring out a small section of the wall and get up onto that for a safety place. You could use it for mobility within a dungeon or underground complex, more for utility, less than, killing.
I would cast it.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Cast it on the roof of the orc's privy. He whirled. He'd be down there with the audience. So.
Yeah, he was.
Who's going to search for treasure later, though? Yeah.
Anyway, what's your idea?
Mike, what's your idea?
I blow it right out of your head.
I was going to say, I was thinking Star Wars all the time. I was thinking some really nasty mage needs to put some other critters in there with the crushing wall. So you walk in there, you get attacked by sturges, or as Star Wars, there's water on the floor, there's snakes floating around there. Then the walls start crushing you too. So not only do you have the problem of I'm getting bit by poisonous snakes and sturges, but guess what? In 4 rounds we're going to be crushed to death. So through kind of a nasty DM, I might throw something like that at a higher level party.
Oh.
It says here for damage, if the wall's not stopped, it causes crushing damage to everyone in the room. Duh. All creatures must make a saving throw versus death. Those who fail are crushed to death. Those who save suffer 5d10 points of damage.
Yow!
5d10 points. It is a level 6 priest spell, so you're going to be up in levels before you can cast this.
Now, does it add damage depending on how much higher level you are than the?
No, it doesn't. It's the stone wall. It gives no variables for level.
Okay.
But
one thing I like about it is it does give you a lot of outs in the spell. It's not an instant death type of spell.
Yeah.
So you would think that maybe using this offensively, you could actually, if you're being chased down a corridor by, a group of orcs or whatever, you could actually turn and cast this. Maybe even if you have 2 rounds to do it, casting time's 1 turn. That's quite a bit of time. So you're not going to be using this, like I said, running down a hallway.
Right.
But to be able to stop, or maybe you're closed off in a room and you need to rest and sleep, and your party's hurt, and you're in the middle of a dungeon, you could easily use this to block off, say, the door out of the room.
Right.
If the door opens in, you just raise up the floor behind the door, instant door jam.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. This is a very useful spell. Really makes people.
And the material components are 1-inch iron cube and a walnut shell.
Yeah, weird material components there, but they give you some outs. Like you can use a heavy something. If some character was really inventive, I might say they could use a magic sword, +3 magic sword, maybe could stop it, or
now 1-inch iron cube is a material component. That's interesting. That sort of like feeds into when we're talking about material components. Because now I don't think an 1-inch iron cube is going to be all that expensive. But
no.
Who the hell has one?
That's when the warrior goes, I'm going to the they're in town. The warrior goes, I'm going to the blacksmith to get my armor repaired, and the wizard goes, I'm going with you. Hey, Joe Smith, the blacksmith, here's a gold coin. Can you make me about 4 small iron cubes, about 1 inch?
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be that difficult to find that spell component.
Yeah,
I mean,
it'd be made.
And then he price gouges you because
of course
he's wearing expensive robes. Oh yeah, those cost 25 gold pieces around here.
Since when? Since right now.
Iron's rare around here. Wait a minute, you're a mining town. We mine salt. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You want it in a cube. I got to put it in a cube. I mean, come on now.
You got plenty of these ball bearings here that are round.
Hit them on 3 sides, you're good to go.
Yeah, there you go. So how can you guys put this to good use? I'm sure there's a lot of people who could find these 2 spells useful. I sure can.
Let us know.
Yeah, THACOshammer@gmail.com.
Or 405-806-0555.
Lori's on it. Oh, we're getting ready to go on a snipe hunt.
If you only had a living brain.
What do you think? Escaped gorilla?
Listen, you're making enough noise to wake up the dead.
I don't have to wake him up. He's up.
It's time for a snipe hunt.
Snipe hunt, yes.
Be very quiet while hunting snipes.
Yes. Well, actually, we're going to hunt this week. Oh, I'm sorry. I still think that creature should be yodeling. Odiux.
The Odiug.
Odiug. I'll take this one. I've got my thing open, right? I mean, my monster's manual open. Odiug is a subterranean creature. It is low to average intelligence. And it's known as also... Oh, great. That's nice. Odiugs, I just learned how to pronounce this, also known as another word I can't pronounce. The
Golgothras?
Golgothra.
Well, I have a comedy routine about this, because I call this one of the monsters with the silly names. Yeah. Because I think monsters should be named what they are, the silly monster name syndrome. Because I can't see a farmer talking to the adventurers going, yep, I got one of them OT Uggs in my back there in my garden. It's messing up. He's going to say, yep, I've got one of them dung things that lives in dung back there. Who named the thing? The Otayug. And then Gutholther.
And the damn thing keeps yodeling. Anyway, there are terrifying creatures that lurk in heaps of dung and decay waiting for something to disturb it. Get this, there are two varieties, regular and its larger, more intelligent offshoot, the Neo-Odiug. I guess this one walks around. They feed on dung and waste from other dungeon creatures. Glugguthra means dung eaters. In what language, I have no idea. But also enjoy an occasional snack of fresh meat. Now, I'm assuming this is the ultimate dungeon garbage disposal.
Sure. Otherwise, yeah, these dungeons would be hip deep in poop. If
he's got a couple Odiugs and a gelatinous cube, the wizard's good to go. Sure. Basically.
Yeah.
A huge bloated bodies covered with rock-like skin that is brownish-gray in color, which is in turn covered with dung. They stand on three thick legs that give them slow ground movement, but enable them to pivot quickly. Huzzah! You tried to flank me. Huzzah! Eye stalk is a receiver transmitter for the telepathic abilities.
Ah, yes.
Oh, my goodness. And I just lost my place. Tell me more about the Odiugs, Mike.
Well,
have you ever used it?
One thing I like, yes, I love this monster because, there's anything that lives in poop and you have to fight it, and you're going to get covered with poop and catch disease. I love that because, you're going to have to decide, is there treasure in there or should I just take this other quarter and get away from this thing? And of course, if you're an evil DM, you have lots of treasure in there, so they're going to have to, decide they're going to go fight the monster that lives in the poo.
You're one of the guys. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And if you decide not to fight him, and you're one of the guys standing outside, come out and give you disease information. Hello, Mike.
I'm still there. I do like the telepathic communication. I think it's fun. If I remember correctly, there is a Neo-Odiug.
Yeah. Neo-Odiug.
In Undermountain, that if you go into a certain sewer, he'll actually talk to you, which I think is interesting. He doesn't immediately attack you; he kind of tries to bargain with you, which I think adds a little interesting kind of concept to the creature too. They're not totally stupid.
I'm surprised the intelligence variation between the regular and the Neo is like, wow.
Yeah.
It's not like 18 intelligence, but I mean, if you go to 5 to 10 for the low and 8 to 12 for the Neo.
Yeah, it's junior college versus Harvard. Yeah,
definitely. It's like, oh well, I'm the Neo-Odiug, and this is my dumb cousin from the sticks.
The Neo-Odiug's the Wall Street executive.
I like corn cobs.
These are a good cooperative monster. They're always good with another monster, because it's like almost like they hire these guys. Hey, we need somebody to come in and clean the dungeon. Can you come in here and live down here? We'll have lots of waste products for you. And so that they work good in a dungeon with other creatures. Make it maybe a little more realistic that there's down in the lower levels, there's these things are running around eating all the trash and garbage.
And they do have limited telepathic ability, which is basically they can talk to creatures as distant as 60 feet. It's usually to simple feelings and emotions, so it's more like an empathic thing.
Yeah, I noticed in the description here that it says Otyughs, and not just Neo-Otyughs, but Otyughs may be persuaded not to attack creatures in exchange for promises of friendship and food. I could see falling into a sewer in a dungeon and meeting one of these things and throwing it my daily rations in order to get the heck out of there before it eats me.
Yeah, a smart player might be able to bargain for his life there instead of, I can't take on a 12-hit die creature. Well, maybe we can help each other out here,
Here's a shank of beef. Go away. Yeah.
And it says the Otyugh's dungeon allies will sometimes ask it to guard treasure for them. And if you think about it, that's pretty smart because if I have a large treasure chest of things I don't want stolen, I am going to throw it in the toilet and have the toilet monster protect it. Just going down, like you said earlier, with the orc and the privy. Who's going in there to search for treasure?
Yeah.
My players would. I had players that would search a dungeon of dung for 1 copper piece.
Oh,
okay, I'm rolling for disease. I'm still rolling for disease. I'm rolling for more disease.
You're going to find it.
I wonder if, if you had a large enough city, Waterdeep size, if these would make effective, neutral type monsters that essentially they're your waste management for the city. I mean, the players find out that the king has hired some monster hunters to find a couple Otyughs and put them outside in the large field of trash and whatnot, and allow them to eat all they want. Just stay out of the town. You guys can sit out here.
Put a big fence up over the city dump.
I mean, it's an effective creature for things that a lot of DMs and players really don't think about from time to time.
Well, with an intelligence of 12, these guys are smarter than some player characters.
Yeah,
so you could probably cut a deal with them. That probably wouldn't be a bad deal for them.
This image of like the party, and to get out of the way, they feed them. It's, oh man, you fed it. Now it's going to follow us. The party's at an inn. He shows up. He followed me.
Hey guys, what's going on? What are you eating?
What's that smell? Oh, it's my new pet. It's Fido.
Can you imagine one of these as a familiar for a wizard?
A hedge wizard, yes.
I do like the last line here in the description. Otyughs are so disgusting that no alchemist or wizard would want to touch their components, so the corpses of the Golgothra have no known use or value.
What about the eggs?
Well, actually, they do have value to other Otyughs. Hey, look, it's refuse. Good, it's more food.
Yeah.
So there's another line I loved here, too, about, what is the line about mating? Most Golgothra live alone. 10% of the time during mating season, 2 Golgothra can be found in its lair. As a DM, I love to spring that on my characters sometimes. See if they would poke their own eyes out, or.
So you walk around the corner of the sewer and you start hearing Barry White. What? That'd be something I don't want to watch.
Yeah, you might have to have.
That's a South Park moment.
Yes, indeed.
You guys out there, tell us how you use a dung monster. No, not that way. Okay. 405-806-0555. And now we're moving on to a new section called DM's Rag.
Well, that's quite a story.
I think it would be fun to run a newspaper.
And here it comes, right over the old plate.
The DM's Rag.
Now, DM's Rag is a new section, and I want to talk a little bit about this.
What's it about there, Glenn?
Well, it's about dungeon adventures, dragon articles, and other magazine articles that are pertinent to 2nd edition D&D or how you can use them for 2nd edition D&D. I realized the other day when I was going through, we got another section called 99% Perspiration, which is usually for like module reviews and other types of reviews like that. And I go, I don't really remember all that many non-world specific 2nd edition modules. And I come to find out, or I thought back and I said, well, that's because we had Dungeon Magazine.
Sure.
I would go there for adventures because they had some of the best damn adventures that I had ever heard. I've had like several excellent evenings playing with these things.
The best 2nd edition adventure resource, Dungeon Magazine.
I would love for it to go back to like, publish the core books and stuff and just publish Dungeon Magazine.
Sure.
With with your monthly fix. I mean, I look at the modules and go, and I just go and pick up a copy of Dungeon Magazine. I always find something I could use in there.
Routinely, they were better than the published. Second edition focused a lot on supplements.
Mm-hmm.
You had the FR series and stuff like that, and I think they really skimped on the adventures, and Dungeon really took that up. Yeah. They took up the gauntlet there, and they published some great stuff. And some of the authors are, well-known names in the industry. Wolfgang Baur had quite a few published. Willie Walsh, the author of our selection today, who I think he was the most published author in Dungeon Magazine.
Yeah, that was what you talking about, Corey, right?
What's that?
Willie Walsh.
Yes.
That's the one we're going to talk about today is from Dungeon number 37. It's called The White Boar of Kilfay by the prolific Willie Walsh.
Now, he was Irish and did a lot of Celtic type adventures.
There's a very Celtic flavor to this, and I love it.
Yes.
I had such a good time DMing this.
One of your favorite modules, Glenn?
Absolutely. One of my modules, not just, magazine adventures. Modules, period. This should have been a module as far as I was concerned.
Oh yeah, it's very good.
Yeah. Well, what's it about? Tell us, Mike.
Let us know.
Tell us, Mike. Tell us what it's about.
Well, basically, Party Adventures rolls into town, and a white boar has killed the king's son, I believe, and he's a little pissed off, and so he's put a reward out for this white boar. Well, there's also some forest elves mixed up in this too, who they've also had a member of their tribe killed, and so the party is assumed to kind of march off and try to find this creature, and they run into the forest elves, who are also not adverse to the party trying to find and kill this creature. And the rest of the adventurers, they're heading off to the woods trying to find it, and they run into various obstacles and different interesting creatures and encounters in the forest on their way to finding this white boar. And I thought it had a really good, a very kind of a mythic quality to it. The white boar, was kind of this. You hear about it the whole adventure. You keep hearing about this white boar. It's done this. It's been here. It's killed this person, and not until the end do you actually run into it. So I thought it had a really good flavor to it.
Yeah, with the Celtic legends of Math and granting Rye one boon during this reign, it also added a little bit more of the Celtic feel to it as well.
And calling back to our earlier discussions on elves, there featured the Grugach elves.
Grugach.
Which is, I believe...
Is that how you say that? I always wanted.
Now, those are from...
Greyhawk, I think, aren't they? They're Greyhawk elves.
Are they Celtic elves? Or...
Celtic.
Yeah, they're one of the back in the Monstrous Compendium. I think they're in one of the appendixes, but I haven't sure one. But they're basically wild elves. Wild elves.
They don't like civilization, don't like people.
Not at all.
They actually have them here under oh no, that's not it. Never mind, my mistake.
Okay. Now, what struck me, I went back and reread this. And what struck me is how much stuff, when I ran it, I left out. Because this thing is packed with encounters.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And I forgot about the goblins who were protecting the wizard in these two little islands in the paddock. And I remember, the only thing I remember was I took the sturges out.
There's like 30 of them, isn't it?
I took the sturges out because it was so bad. It's like, they don't need these two. I mean, what, you got the goblins, you got an owlbear out there, you got a...
Obliviacs,
and that's not even counting once you get into the wizard's paddock, what you find there.
Yeah, this is all on the way there. You run into, a whole module's worth of critters on the way to the mages there.
I had to pare it down some. I mean, it's not like we had a big, time limit or anything, but it's like, I can't just keep throwing and throwing and throwing this stuff out. That's the only a little downside, but as a DM, I said, okay, take about 3 of these out. And it's still a great run.
I thought it was a little railroady at the beginning. Because, well, I hadn't reread it in a long time. I reread it, and there's a part where you walk into the forest and you meet the elves, and if you do this, well, no, this is going to happen. If you do this, and basically everything is steering you that you have to go into the woods, which if you want to do the adventure, you should want to go into the woods anyway. But I thought that part was a little railroady. But and actually, I liked there was a part where you used to talk about a goblin lair, which I thought had a lot of possibility, but there's actually not a lot of goblins there.
No,
the goblins actually left.
There's a reason for that, though.
Right.
You know,
right.
And it all links back to the boar and this wizard who's doing ungodly things to creatures, experimenting on them and things like that. As a matter of fact, I remember that one goblin in there, the male goblin that the females and threw out, the cat. He hung around in our campaign for a good 12 sessions.
You mean the mighty grub puck?
Yeah, the mighty grub puck. He was our mascot. He was their mascot for quite a long time. In fact, he started following him around, and at one point, like the second adventure, goes, "I want to be a fighter. Teach me how to be a fighter." and the dwarf smacks him on the head. He says, "Well, once you learn to duck that, we'll talk."
That's when Wooly Walsh does have a really good talent for creating some really good NPCs.
Oh, yeah.
Some good encounters. His stuff is really, really spectacular.
And the reason the boar, I don't know how much detail I should go on this.
How much spoilers should we carry?
Yeah, the reason the boar is there and why the whole thing is going on is kind of, I loved it because it was slightly ridiculous. Just slightly. Because basically of short-sightedness on the gods' part.
Yeah, I found that a little odd because they're gods. They should be able to foresee certain things happening. I thought that was a little odd, but you could make it work. Maybe they wanted if you say your gods in the campaign were nature gods, obviously they want to create an avatar or a creature that was with nature, like a boar.
Well, now you figured out it's an avatar for a god, but.
Wow, I did spoil that. Man. Way to go, Mike.
No, but you could also treat them like they're kind of like the Greek gods or the Roman gods who are like, have faults just like mortal men. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And that I could buy. We didn't really think this, it's like that Meet the Robinsons. I don't really think this plan was thought through.
I do like the twist, too, that the boar is not maybe the most evil creature in the forest. It's kind of a MacGuffin. You're following the boar, but in the end, maybe the boar it's not there to be killed.
Yeah, the boar is like a big arrow pointing.
Sure.
It's over there. And I'd love to, maybe next time we can get into what's in there, because it was probably one of the most memorable times I ever had running D&D. The climax of this adventure was just priceless to me.
Yeah, there's a nasty battle at the end that would be it'd be worth the while for having to go on through this adventure and follow this creature off of the woods. So.
You know what? I'm going to tell it because I told this on Save or Die. But, basically, the boar wants to get in and kill one of the wizard's experiments, the biggest one. Well, he already killed the wizard and his minions, but he can't get into the lab without help, hence the PCs. But once you open it up, then he gets in. That's all I want to say. Actually, that's all I want to say about it. Go play it. Go play it.
We've only spoiled 80% of it. There's still 20%.
More like 50-50. I mean, I told you there's a bunch of things in the woods, and I said there's something, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but...
We left out a lot.
Okay, let's, shall we do, ratings on this, like they do on the other shows?
How many stars? 5? Up to 5?
Last time. No, we didn't do it last time. What about you, Mike?
There was a couple of things I had problems with. I had problems with the little railroading and the problem with as you said, the boar was a boar and not something else. But, I think it's above average adventure. I'd definitely give it a 4. I don't think it's one of the top ones, but I think it's better than your average adventure. I think if you played through it, I think your players would get a really epic feel from it, like they were part of some really epic happening in their game world.
And if they do it all right, they get a really nice reward at the end.
Yes, they do.
Yes. Corey,
so I'd give it a solid 4.
4? Okay. What do you think, Corey? Corey.
The White Boar of Kilfay, it is full of tons of information. I did like the maps. I'm a cartographer at heart, too, so I really like the adventure. Plus, I found a lot of the things in here could be just taken and used just outside of the adventure itself. I would give this probably a 4. A hearty 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 4 or 5 just because of memories of successfully running this. And it was if I needed an adventure to keep me playing and DMing D&D, this would have been it.
I think we all have one of those. I have one myself, even if it is a first edition adventure. I'm the same way with this.
That's 4, 4, and 4.5. Because, it is a little railroady, but in this case, I can buy the railroad. I can get on the railroad with no problem.
And Corey's right. There is a lot of bits in here you can pull out. There's a whole encounter at a bridge we didn't even get into that's really kind of neat.
Oh yes.
And the goblin. There's a lot of stuff you can pull out. So even if you didn't use the adventure as written, you can definitely use it as parts.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Very useful.
Let's see. What are we looking at? 4, 8, 12.5 divided by 3. My math is failing. We're happy. Give it a quarter. Nobody. Thank you, Corey. Better. Thank you. Better 1. Better 2. 4 1/4.
We'll say 4 1/4.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That's good.
Out of 5.
Yeah. Look, folks, we're RPG people, not mathematicians.
We can't figure out THACO. 6-year-olds can figure out THACO. We can't figure out what 1/3 of
12.5.
Although I have no trouble playing champions. Go figure.
That's because you have a calculus degree.
Yes.
So you need that for that game.
No, I have a calculator. That's what I have.
Okay.
Okay, well, tell us about this. And first of all, go check it out if you can find a PDF of it. It's Dungeon number 37.
But we do not approve, nor do we support pirating of any copyrighted material. But if you happen to be able to pick this up at a store, you want to look at this as issue. It's great adventure.
That is one good thing about old dungeons is they're pretty affordable too.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have a lot of problem finding on the secondary marks.
And you can tell them if you've run it or something like that. Tell us about it at 405-806-0555 or
at THACOshammer@gmail.com.
And we say that every chance we get, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Well, it's about that time.
Is it time? It is that time.
We got to go. Time to wrap it up. Don't forget your character sheets. If you want to grab some trips to go out for, don't forget your dice. And for DM Corey.
That's me.
For DM Bad Mike.
Glad to join you guys. Had a great time.
And for me, DM Glenn, join us again when the hammer comes down on THACO's Hammer. Bye-bye. Be sure to visit our website at thacoshammer.info. If you have any questions or comments, email us at thacoshammer@gmail.com. Remember, that's an O, not a 0. You can also leave us comments in the 2nd edition forum at dragonsfoot.org. See you next time when the hammer comes down on THACO's Hammer.